Episode of America in Black and White. Tonight we have a wonderful show where we will be embarking on a gastronomic adventure. We delve into the vibrant world of Chef Kenneth Miner, from his culinary prowess to his business acumen. Chef Miner is a versatile talent, an author, wellness coach, speaker, recording artist, and educator, renowned for his captivating presentations and a coveted in-demand speaker. His client roster boasts esteemed names like eBay, PayPal, Dow Jones, SiriusXM, US Bank, Ready Capital, and Mizuho Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you all to the show, Chef Kenneth Miner.
Hey.
Hello, Mr. Miner. How are you today?
Hey, everyone. How you doing?
It's good to have you on the show. Did I miss anything, or is there more that you'd like for the people to know?
No, it's really, really good.
Well, thank you for being here. And, as we embark on this journey tonight, because I'm sure that, you've got lots of gems to tell folks about what you're doing as far as your work as a chef, your work in the community, and about some other issues that we have going on. Go ahead.
Is there something I need to turn on? Because there's a reverb.
I don't know where that's coming from.
You don't have it on your end?
No. Do you have anything? Is it do you have something else connected?
Hold a second. I don't believe so. Let me. There we go.
Okay.
No. I see. I got you on YouTube as well. I just need.
Yeah, so you can mute that.
Yeah, got you.
Okay. So as we embark into the many things that we got an hour that's going to be great, impacted by a lot of things. Let's just start out with as we get into this. Tell us about your early culinary influences.
Oh, wow. Let's start from the beginning. I don't know if it was so much a culinary experience as much as it was I was a really greedy fat little boy that is true, that hung in the kitchen, and I always wanted to be around my grandmother, who was the matriarch of our family, who definitely was probably the best cook to date. And I've been around on this earth for a while now. She's still the best Southern cook food I've ever tasted, right? And so around the age of 6 years old, my grandmother was like, boy, if you're going to be around this kitchen, you're going to have to do something. And she did. And decided and she sat me down with a brown paper bag, and it was Thanksgiving time, and I broke up the bread. I didn't know what I was doing at 6 years old, but it was the first time that I actually touched raw ingredients, right? And I broke up the bread and put it in a brown bag. She said, make sure you put it in right little pieces. And later that bread became the stuffing for the turkey, right? And I saw my grandmother bring out the turkey, and I remember what my 6-year-old mind, 5-year-old mind registered is that, look what we did. Look what the food did. And I saw with my uncles and my aunts all around enjoying food, and food was imprinted on me then. And I was just like, it was before cooking. What I knew is that food had and still has the ability to bring people together. Right? Yes. It has the opportunity to change the atmosphere in the room. It has it brings it's a form of love for me, almost a ministry. And my grandmother, who had 12 kids, right? So from the South, from South Virginia. And so food for her was just more than just this thing that we did on Sunday after church. It was a way that you brought the family together and how we checked in with each other. And so I would say that was the beginnings of what you see today, which is my love for food.
Oh, wow. So is that why you've come up with some of the wonderful recipes in the books that you've written? That you've created that is that purpose to bring people together?
Yeah, I mean, that is a journey within itself, Charles, because initially being a chef was nowhere on my radar. I was a singer by trade, right? Went to school for classical music. That's what I thought I wanted to do. And so because I was 65 pounds overweight,
Okay.
and I lost the weight, and then that was really just about protein shakes and chicken breast and oatmeal. And I was like, no, this ain't gonna work, Lord. I can only do this with so much. I mean, that helped me lose the weight. But what I was really missing was those flavors from what I grew up on, right? So we tend to have these flavors, especially if you're Southern out there, or even regardless of your nationality, there are flavors that remind us of our childhood. You know, I remember growing up, and if it was Saturday and I smelled bacon and pancakes, I knew it was Saturday because my mom didn't cook during the week. I was a latchkey kid. So we got cereal during the week. But when I smelled bacon and pancakes, it was definitely Saturday. So I was missing all of those flavors in this new healthy pursuit. And I just started putting flavors together because I love ice cream. That's how it started. I still today love ice cream. It is the thing that I am actually on a fast right now as we speak. And so no ice cream is on my menu, but it was how I started playing with the flavors of smoothies. Because back then, I don't know how long y'all been thinking, we have so many options now. Back in the day, it was only vanilla, strawberry, and chocolate. That was it.
That's it.
With smoothies, when they came in the protein powder, that's all it was. Now we got French vanilla and tropical flavors and all this French, But back then, that was all it is. And I started playing with the flavors with orange juice and changing out almond milk. And that's where it really started. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I can make this vanilla shake taste like a creamsicle, which I love creamsicles. Growing up, I don't know if you remember creamsicles with the vanilla and the orange. Yeah. And that's where it started. And then it just kind of grew from there. And then one day I had this idea. I was like, I'm going to go to culinary school. I don't know where it came from. It was nowhere in. My mom actually did. We were on the phone, and my mom was like, you make the macaroni and cheese for the family, which is a coveted event because everybody don't get to do the macaroni and cheese, right?
Exactly.
So, almost like Soul Food, a movie, everybody knows their part. Somebody do the cornbread, somebody do the greens, somebody do the meat. Mine and my family, they entrusted me with doing the macaroni and cheese. And I think it's probably my best dish, even though I know I cook so many other things. And my mother's like, won't you go to culinary school? And I was like, where do you get that from? But that came out of nowhere. She's like, you make the macaroni and cheese, and I think you'd be good. And since I had already been a manager for a neurology practice, that's where I was in healthcare before this, I was like, I'll go to culinary school and I will be a restaurateur. That's how I'll manage the restaurant. But just in case a chef try to walk out on me or be funny, I'm going to know how to cook my own food. And that was the spark for me then I got in culinary school and the food bug bit me, and living here in New York City, I'm all around. It's different types of food, which I really love. Hollow food, Little Italy, Spanish food, all of these foods were around me, and it's from which I've pulled from because food is just that worldly. It's a really good opportunity to kind of just take in different kinds of food beyond my Southern chef experience.
Oh, wow. So, and just delving from that point of when you're saying that you were overweight, but you were singing first and so forth, how did the inspiration of music come back into you cooking?
They were kind of introduced around the same time. So, all we did was go to church 5 days a week. That's what my family did. I come from a long line of church. My mom is a apostle. My uncles are pastors. We have a bishop in my family. So the Black church is my experience in growing up. And so when the crowd, and I've shared this before, but when a church gets crowded, they send the kids down in the basement. And so I remember playing in the basement. It happened just like this. I was playing in the basement. I had my first solo, This Little Light of Mine, which was my first solo song. And I remember being down in the basement, and Sister Hattie, I can see her face right now, said, baby, you did so good with the solo. And she handed me a piece of chicken, a leg wrapped up in white bread. Oh. Right? And all the other kids didn't get one. She gave it to me. And I remember sitting down in the pew, because, they put the old pews downstairs in the basement so we could sit down. Right. And I was just swinging my legs, and I was just happy. I just remember being 5 years old and just happy. Like I told you, I love food. I was a little fat kid. And that this chicken had made such an impact on me. and they were upstairs singing music. And it was the first time that music and food in my mind kind of just cemented together. And it was, for me, food and music just always go together.
Wow. So like right now at this time, are you still pursuing music, or are you just strictly doing your culinary?
It's so funny. I have a concert coming up on March the 20th in Harlem. And it's been a while since I haven't done a concert since 2008, right? Because the chefing has really been taking on. And so it takes a lot of energy for me to put a show together, and the musicians, and because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and music has changed so much. And so sometimes I sit here as from a musical standpoint and wonder, do people still want to hear songs about love? Do people still want to hear songs that have a melody and it's not simply just about a vibe? And so I wrestled with, is there still a place for me in music? And I heard the Spirit tell me, don't compare yourself. And I will say this to all of you out there. Don't compare your gift to other people's gifts and what you should be doing. It is your journey. It is your gift that God is giving you. So I'm going to get back out there and start putting the singing out there as a full concert, and I'm excited about it.
Please make sure I get a link. I'd like to see that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, New York and Harlem. Here we go. March the 24th. I think that's a Thursday, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as your books, was there an inspiration to doing the books, or was the books just done to tell a story?
Wow, great question. A little bit of both. A little bit of both. I first of all, when things come to me, it comes to me visually first. Food, songs, that's my process. I know different people have different processes when it comes to expressing their art, but it comes to me visually. So I initially didn't start out as a chef. I was a food stylist. And actually, I like another client, what they sold me. They call me a beauty editor. I like that better than food stylist. I didn't like that, but I'm a beauty editor. Yes. And so I did that for Food Network. And so I really enjoy being doing the food styling, because I always wondered, right? When you see these pictures on cereal boxes and on the back of your favorite ingredients or cream of wheat or whatever, I always thought, how did they get that picture like that? You know, who did that? Who chose that tablecloth? How did they put the oatmeal in the bowl? Who chose that bowl? What's that background with the kitchen? All of those details is what really drew me to food. And the food came later because, I cook, but it was really through food styling. So when it came to the book, that's how it started. I was like, I want to take all of my favorite pictures, right, of my smoothies and what I do and the food that I record. And at the time, I was working with a photographer named Sekou, and we were about to do the book. And I was like, oh, we got to get a food stylist, because I do a little bit, but I don't know if I do enough for a whole book. And he was like, no, I think you should be the food stylist for your own stuff. And I really just started getting into food styling, and that created a book, in my second and third books. And so it is through that. But the story that I wanted to tell was that of, I think that so many Americans out there are going through right now, which is struggling with their weight. I wrote this down because I wanted to make sure that I got it right for you, Charles. But I recently saw this post, I believe by Forbes, and I had to write it down because it was so shocking to me. And it was saying by the year 2030, nearly half of the U.S. adults will be obese, including nearly 1 out of 4 who will be severely obese. This obesity rate will surpass 50% in 29 states and above 53% in southern states. So that, I had to take that in. I understand that struggle to eat well for so many people, balancing how to live a happier and healthier life for so many of us. And especially those who come from the South, where we love our fried chicken and our collard greens and our grits and, this and that. And I understand that. But really, to us as a nation, is getting to a point where our health is going to be in such, it's going to start to weigh on our quality of life.
Right.
Right. And so what I do now is really more part of a ministry Where I think initially at first it was about look at me, look at me, look at me, look at what I can do. I can do a book, you know. But now it's really is. I see where God is taking my ministry, what doors He's opening, the partners that you mentioned at the beginning of your interview. I think some people will be lucky just to have some of those clients that you mentioned, and I've been able to work with all of them because I really believe that myself and my team, that we're really building something that's going to be here to help millions of people as the years come for struggling, because it can't be beyond pushing away from the table. Do some exercise. There is a level of trauma, especially for African Americans, that I feel like we have to work through. And I work through this with my clients. I'll give you this example. I had a client who is very, very smart. And she came to me and I had her privately. And one of the things that I get my clients to do is to journal what they've eaten through the day. Right. And not only journal what you're eating throughout the day, tell me what you were feeling while you were eating this and what trigger foods and all of that. Was really getting into that. And she has so much resistance in writing it down. Now, here's the irony. She works for a publishing company, for one of the big ones. So I challenged her. So I was like, how can you not write when you're a copy editor? This makes no sense for me. And she fought me and she fought me on it. And eventually around month 2, she started, well, I journal, chef. Here we go. And the thing is, the small thing, I want you to hear this, and I'll share a little bit of my weight story too, is when she was a little girl, she would write down, she was an avid writer, and she would write down, and when things didn't come true, it disappointed her. So as an adult, she didn't write anything down, right? Other than, our work or whatever, but she stopped journaling because there was so much pain in her life. And see how you just take that moment and break it down. For that, for me, it was my father. One day I was 6 years old at the table with my father. And then the next week, my father was gone. And no one talked about it. I'm 6 years old. And the next thing I know, I'm on a I'm on a bus going down to the prison and my father's in jail, right? No one explained what my father did. It was just, I saw my father at the table one week, and the next week I see my father coming to me in an orange jumpsuit, and I couldn't touch him, sitting down in a chair. And so I went back home. I remember that now that, through a lot of therapy. And I was like, I started eating because I missed my dad. And of course, those eating habits turned into, overeating and the bad habits. So at the nucleus of people being obese, I understand that there's a story behind the number. I understand there's a journey and an opportunity for healing. And so as many people I can get in front of and help them heal their story and heal the trauma at what I do, then it's really, it's a blessing. And I'm looking forward to doing more of it.
So it sounds like what you're saying is a lot of people overeat primarily due to emotions. And so if you're eating emotionally, then it causes you to do what they call binge eating.
Yes. I was definitely a binge eater up until I was 29 years old, right? And when I lost the weight at 29. And, of course, we don't call it that, and so with that being said, we all have a level of trauma. So I'm not trying to make that the weight loss, the weight gain for everybody has trauma. I don't think they would view it that way. This is why I always kept my client list small, because I'm going to make this statement and I'm starting to feel more comfortable making this statement. I believe that once the weight gets 50 pounds, 60 pounds, 70 pounds, 100 pounds plus, that's not about diet and exercise.
That I can agree with that, because I will say after I got out the military, and I can say probably, within these last 10 years, actually, is when I discovered, or shall I say, I noticed that I had gained an enormous amount of weight and didn't even realize it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right about the emotional part, because when I looked at how much weight I had gained, I'm like, well, oh my God, well, nobody even said anything.
Put a pin in that. Keep talking.
And so, it's like when I noticed it, then I'm like, oh no, this can't happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I instantaneously, I did, got back on my regimen. I'm still not quite all the way there like I used to be, but I'm there where I'm just like at that point where I'm not trying to build mass and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Go for
Mm-hmm.
that, but just staying toned. And I don't know. I just noticed that when that happens, I think sometimes it can happen and you just don't realize it.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised. Well, maybe you're not. Thank you for sharing that with me. How quickly 10 and 20 pounds become that can come along with a bad divorce. That can come along with taking medications. I have friends in my age group who are now taking certain medications that they're gaining weight. We slow down, as we get older, just by nature, right? So we being mindful about this and putting in practices to exercise and to eat well has to be intentional. And so that intentionality is what I talk about with my clients. And that's what we do with the brand. What is your why and why you're eating? And if you don't have a why and if you don't have a vision for your health, I mean, it's two things. One, it's easy to say exercise and eat better, right? But what does that really look like as it relates to daily practices, right? So if you go to work at night and you come home, it's 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, you go to sleep, you wake up, you eat, and then you get ready back for work at 5, 6, 7 o'clock. It's kind of hard to talk to that person and say, you should be hitting the gym. This is how you should be eating, right? Because the body is on this, depending on how your body is made, you're on this schedule and it's just your schedule. It's your life.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're
Right.
eating fast food. You're eating at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, usually carry out food, whatever someone eating. Fast forward to even being productive in an office space. Sometimes people eat breakfast at 9 and then it's almost 3, 4 o'clock because of their meetings and Zooms. They're like, oh, I got to grab something. So you're grabbing a foot long Subway sandwich and potato chips and soda because you're hungry and realize that's just way too much food to be eating. So it isn't so much this feeling of bad you or bad what you're eating. It's just simply being mindful about what you're eating and how much of it you're eating and the why behind it. And just that mindful, idea of sitting down and asking yourself, why am I eating this way? Without the shame, or we ain't even got on shame and vulnerability.
That's right.
That's a whole I don't know if we got enough time for shame and vulnerability.
So tell me about, when you started to grow in your culinary career, how you started, how you got the opportunity to be a part of Food Network. You were on different shows, you made tours and stuff like that. Tell me how, in your growth span, when you got to that point, what happened to put you on this new plateau?
You doing good today. All right. Well, I will say, and I'll say this for in any industry that everybody's listening out there, have your paperwork together. And I mean that for real. When the opportunity comes, you got to be prepared for it already. And what I mean by that is I was in culinary school in my last year of culinary school, and my roommate at the time loved Chopped. He loved it. I would come home from work. He was always watching Chopped. And I sat down with the computer. I was like, I bet you I can get on the show. And he was like, you gonna do it? You do it. And I sat there and I had photos already professionally done, professional photos. I had pictures of my food already because I was working on my cookbook, right? I had a narrative story about, how I lost the weight and what food means to me and everything. My point is that I didn't have to, let me call a friend, let me get some pictures done. Oh, let me take some pictures of my food. Da, da, da. I had all of that ready. So a lot of the opportunities that I've been afforded and still being afforded was simply because I was ready. And opportunity will always come to you when you're ready and when you're prepared for it. And
Right.
does that mean I still have to learn and I'm still, now later on, I got to work a little harder, right? Because there's a lot, this chef boom has come out of nowhere. Everybody on internet cooking. There's a lot of TV shows out there, especially those game show type shows. So now I'm more intentional about the shows I do. So when an opportunity like Tamara Hall comes along, it really is about networking. I'm gonna give this to you. A friend of mine said this to me, one of my mentors. And if you're ever lucky to have a mentor, please cherish that relationship. And he said that, well, I forgot which one. He says so many, but let me say this one. People, poor people friend on the level that they're on, and rich people share connect on their shared destiny. And even though I'm in that pursuit of being rich and so I'm very intentional about partners and friendships that I have in my life. And I've been so blessed to have friends in different industries, being medical, producers, writers, camera people. I mean, really great talent, right? Who on major shows. And I have access to that pool, right? Because they're my friends. And so if anybody starting their career out there or want to take it to the next level, one of the things that Issa Rae say is that you network and build on the level that you're on, right? That's okay. But it should be quality people. And then those aspirational shows like Food Network that I'm doing and a TV pilot and corporate, now I'm doing a lot of DEI stuff with corporate companies, is because that well of friendships and connections I've built. Like this one, we met in LinkedIn.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know about y'all, but I don't click yes to everybody.
I don't either, but I will tell you, you're right about that, because you do that. But also, I will say that for all the connections, especially there on LinkedIn, especially with it being a professional site, that each and every last one of those connections have panned out at this point in time. What that means for me is that, in building, because it's a stepping stone. So in just that building point, and just having that opportunity to, hey, let's connect. When I talk, we go back and forth. It's not just quality, but it's value that it adds to what you're going to do or what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
And so a lot of times, some people take that for granted.
I do not. Just today, I had a wonderful meeting with one of the largest insurance companies that's out there, and that relationship was through LinkedIn, right? And the fact that she, what's the word I'm looking for? She kind of spearheaded and made that meeting happen with top people. I'm mindful. Back in, let me take you back in the sense about intentionality. I don't know if y'all remember, but when Obama was running against Hillary Clinton, okay?
Yes.
I had no dog in the race, as they say. I think that's the same. And I was a Hillary Clinton fan, right? So, but Obama's making some traction. He Black, so he got my attention. I'm listening to what he's saying. He's articulate. Is resonating with me. And at that time, I was watching a lot of CNN. And they kept saying Hillary Clinton is ahead of Obama, but she's so polarizing. She's so polarizing. I kept hearing that word over and over again, right? And then I remember, and it happened just like this. I'm at a party. Everybody was talking about, should we vote for Obama because he's Black? Is he the right Black guy at this moment? And I remember saying, well, Hillary Clinton, I love her. I love them as a brand, but she's so polarizing. And I heard myself say it. And I was like, I ain't never said polarizing a day in my life. That's just not in my vocabulary. And so even now, and then so when I went and looked at my personal feed and friends and that of my friends, I was like, everybody is talking about Hillary Clinton, but no one's talking Clinton, but anymore. You understand the conscious decision back then that I was going to post thread that wasn't uplifting. Hey, I enjoy your post, or I'm intentional, because I'm not going to badmouth anyone, and I don't know that intentionality of good partner with pays and dividends way the warm and fuzzy feeling that people, what we build together.
Okay. I think your connection is kind of going in and out. Okay.
You hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Okay. Yeah. So let's pivot here a little bit, and let's you actually asked a great question today on LinkedIn. And I just want to tell you that I actually wrote it down because it's worth mentioning. when you asked the question about the fundamental changes that America needs to make for a more inclusive
Mhm.
and equitable future, that is a really wonderful question.
Mhm.
And with that question, I'm gonna tell you my perspective. I want you to give me some feedback and tell me what do you think about this, because I think in order for some of the things that America needs to do is see people as being real people and not part people. Because when it comes to our community, for the Black community, of course, we know the Constitution says that we're only 3/5 of a person. And so
Mhm.
now today, here in the 21st century, that is being enacted more than we can ever imagine. It's despite the strides that we're making, we're still trying to push forward and make that it's now that they're trying to take that away and they're trying to push this back from a conservative perspective, which is something that I definitely don't agree with because I think everybody should have the opportunity to live their life and be free, not feel repressed, not feel scared, and not feel like, when you make strides and you're going to do something different that's against what they're doing, that you have to fear for your life. For
Mhm.
me, when I started this particular show, American Black and White, the purpose of this
Mhm.
podcast, which I've said over and over again, but I think it deserves to be reiterated more than you can ever imagine, because there's so many people that are in so many underserved communities that don't have a voice, that I'm here for that, but I'm also here to build communities throughout. We have a lot of our people that do not feel like they have to do that. Well, I disagree with that. And so for me, I think that unless we have platforms like this and many others in many different forms and fashions, that's actually going to take that bull by the horn and we're
Mhm.
going to make it do what it do. Because for me, if it's the last breath in my body, I will be fighting to make that change and make it happen and bring everything that I possibly can, or every person that's in the underserved community, to bring them to this point right here, to where they're not afraid to do those things, because there's so much talent in these different communities that people really do not know about. And so, like, when the people that I like to bring to the show, like such as yourself, is, when you do stuff in the community and it's actually authentic and you're actually out there
Mhm.
with people to really bring them up, to help them, that's what I'm about. And that's what I love to see. And so it's just like the show I had yesterday. It was so wonderful because what they're doing at the University of Toledo, I
Mhm.
had the guy that's on the show that's actually an advisor there, a career advisor. But he's
Mhm.
doing things in other, outside of that, and but it's about the community. These are the things that we all should put our faces out there and let people see what we're doing, and just bringing them not just to power, but bringing them up to where they can be resourceful themselves. So that's why I say I love that question that you asked.
Thank you. Sharing and this opportunity as well. I wholeheartedly agree with you. What it's the thread about community and action, right?
Mhm.
Right? And pound, we as a community actionable once it's an emotional things. Let me say it like this: you believe, because I understand why we do this. We tend to be reactionary and not pro in our civic duty in our, as you say, in our community to spread, right? Um, I my brand, uh, such as yourself, the good. I don't. I'm doing how they're taking it away. That this world is right, and these or progressive systems, or you're not connected to then it's kind of hard, or even let it have your attention. And this is just my view. I'm gonna be a little bit. I feel like African American and people spend for their attention is involved in things that affect their daily life, haven't been tuning in lately. And I see this overall. In addition, I'm answering this as a musician. It has to do with, and someone got me mentioned. I didn't think it was that serious, but I see problem in where we ought to be as a community. Think about the 50s, the 60s, and you turned on the radio, you heard something, the radio, the late 80s. So if you're tuning in these songs, and it's not like down the music, because it's all you got to see good about money, hoes, dancing. Then you mentality as a pound, as a and do this together. There is no found togetherness of something that is through into every day that these young people listen to. Their music is a big part, is because it's why they dismantle it. I have a friend who was in music, who's a big executive letter in the late 90s that went around to all the executives, any more conscious rappers want that music anymore. Any artist coming across, they did not want it, right? Music. I have another friend who was, okay. This is, can you hear me?
Yeah, you were choppy at one point. Very, very choppy.
Okay.
No, now it's just like it's like coming in at the end. But go ahead. I just thought that something was messing with your mic.
Yeah, that hooked up.
Okay. No, I didn't hear that. I know you're saying, "Ask, could I hear you?" But kind of say something again.
Check. 1, 2,
Okay.
3, 4.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So what I was saying, act on what our young people are listening to, the type of television shows that we're watching adds to how we as a community. So I don't always quote unquote them about our desire for quality content is king. And so beg, and not beg, sorry, if we support our artists and the work that's out continue to be this way. So yeah, but I'm definitely going to do my part to put.
Yeah, and so just so you know, I want to make sure that it's kind of like clear as to when I made that statement. That statement is not about what other people do, because they're going to do what they're going to do regardless of the case. Okay. My thing is, I'm talking about building our communities, is that if we focus more on what the people that look like us, that are in each and every last one of these different industries, are doing something positive, and they're doing something positive to reach back, that right there's the connection, because then you're talking about, even though you're here, you're helping here, they're here, and they're helping here. So it's like that's how that building process begins. So, I mean, you don't have to spend your dollars in all of these other places that are not bringing money back to your community.
Yeah.
Because primarily being, they consider African Americans to be of being the highest consumers there are in this country, that means that these people can't live if we don't spend there. So why spend your money there?
Because alternative to that kind of content, and there's no other way to say this. We don't have time, King. There's I reckon the lady who wrote Eat, Love, Love Her, she did Seek It Out, and she talked really put it into perspective as a nation moved away that a person good at his or her craft, right? From somewhere up there or out into the world. And then early 1900s, it became about she's a genius. Then what happened was that to put the onus on ourselves, I'm the best, right? You bring along and it says, do yourself be. And so this I mentality, and it continues to grow. I believe it's a cancer. It disconnects us. And so again, I'm gonna stick on this. When it comes to, we're doing what we do, pockets of the world, of course. A lot of people together. It's harder to do that. And so to turn this show, that show, everybody's like, no, it's about show. I don't care about what y'all do.
Right.
Yes, sir. My page.
And so going back to food, and you were talking about being healthy and exercising and so forth. Let's talk a little bit about community health. So tell me, what does that space look like, and how what should we be doing as a collective to bring community health to a point?
Great. And how are we doing on sound? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's still choppy.
You're coming clear across me. Good on sound as well. It's still choppy?
Yeah. I think I don't know. I don't know what happened. It just started and then it just been going from there for the last 15 minutes. Hold on one second. Give me a sound check.
Check 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. Yeah, so now it's now you're lagging.
I'm lagging.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should I?
Okay. Now I hear you, but just go ahead. We can continue because it's now you're just lagging behind, so everything you're saying is coming through.
I just hit them. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, when it in 2010, us talking about wellness in a big, as a community, people were saying, and we start seeing the whole floor about what they were eating, but to have room about how we eat and to point that. And so now I'm in community health as a chef, and it was really good just to I really have a heart for kids, and so it was through the kids that I started this grown over the 20 years. So I think one of the key things is that we have one level of worthiness, that we believe food, right? We worthy of good. The first thing. Secondly, to real full advantage that insurance is if they kind of got any kind of incentivized gyms. Gyms cost like $10 back in the day. People say, "Oh, I don't go to the gym because it's at Planet Fitness." Exercise, you're getting out there, and when I hear people talk about food prices are through the roof, about 11% since 2020, since COVID. I definitely understand that, but I also understand utilizing vegetables in our diet. Those are the key things that I talk about. Getting involved in the food in your community, eating a lot of carry-out food, and do that, and that your insurance, who have Medicaid, you're able to get therapy through Medicaid discount services. So make sure you're abreast of what's going on with your insurance company and with lifestyles, and then to make sure you can, and then start with the community that's over, which is your family and yourself. So make sure, at least in your house, in my house, this is how we live. And mentality with food, definitely that goes in your house. And chefkenny.com for some helpful recipes. Really just seek out healthier food, and that's really what I teach people.
Well, that's going to require some discipline. A lot of people don't have discipline. So that's something you have to work on, but they can't do that unless they want to. And another big thing here is diversity and inclusion. I'd love to hear that. So as to diversity and inclusion, and how they're making this now another political football. Tell me, how do you feel about that?
It's out of my diversity inclusion. They're going through, y'all. They really were already with reduced restrictions. I met somebody who's been calling it affirmative action. That's what they used to be, affirmative action. That's how far the dismantling of voting rights, and then about us on every hand. EI department at your have been as involved now because these programs may not 3 years. That's soon, right? Or that you become an advocate. If I can tell you how to do your platform, make sure about what's going on in the community. You are being accountable voting. That every time I'm going to be more involved on a federal level, and that's just all you can do right now as far as that they don't just ram it through. Stay on the DEI path. It's really about us and how we want to see our future. So it's in essence for us to dare to be seen. And
well, see, this is where I think our people need to be listening, because when you mention things such as affirmative action, diversity and inclusion, you mentioned voting rights. Those things are very sacred to Black folks because we had to fight for those things for so long. So even though the Civil Rights Act was passed back in the 60s, early 60s, that you got to a point that you didn't have to worry about that. So when Obama got into the White House, okay, and this was brought to his attention about making voting rights just legal for folks that are eligible to vote here in America, he said, nobody's trying to take away your voting rights. Now you see that they're more than trying to take away the voting rights, that now 40 of these 50 states have gotten bills that they are actually trying to take away voting rights. And so now we find ourselves going back to fighting this from the 60s up to now, and people are upset because people are really offended that we've had folks that's died, and now more people probably will have to die fighting this again, which is totally unnecessary. And the reason why it's unnecessary is because they use politics to more than just do divide and conquer in the Black community, but they make sure that it's enacted and it's enforced. Because despite how many times we can go to how many different states and we can say, oh, my state's better than your state, that don't mean it's good for all of us. Because even right here in Georgia, where I am, and they passed, after Biden won for president in 2020, the same Secretary of State that was on TV screaming for his life, talking about people were threatening him and so forth, was the one that put the bill together that they sent to the governor that's restricting voting rights here in Georgia. And the governor won re-election. And people know this. So I want you to think about that. When they talk about Americans, they don't mean Black people. That's point blank. And that's not coded language. That's real. So when you talk about what they did in affirmative action, which actually had a little solid foundation for us to have an opportunity, okay, we had that opportunity, but the Supreme Court, the conservative Supreme Court took that away. Just like the Supreme Court that unlocked and tore down voting rights when they did the voting rights bill that they took out of Section 3 over in Alabama, Shelby County. That started the destruction of voting rights. But see, these are the things that a lot of our people really are not listening to. They're not understanding because a lot of people don't understand civics. So if they've gotten that far already, and you know it's still penetrating through the system, so just imagine at the end of 2024, despite who's in the Senate or the House, that bill is going into effect. So now we're going to be right back at the same point fighting about voting rights, and that's crazy. So when we talk about diversity and inclusion is a thing where primarily I forgot what they called it when it was back in the 60s about when you're Black and white and you want to marry, which is primarily what this is about. Is because they don't want no infusions whatsoever, because it's believed that one race is pure and the other one is pure evil. And that's the way we're being treated, because what people are looking at is, oh, give me some money and I can tell you everything and I can just forget about this. Our culture has been sold off, is what it is. But I will tell you, with diversity and inclusion, if we do not get together and actually stop the small-mindedness about the LGBTQ community, because that is the only community that's going to save not only Black culture, but it's going to save the world. Because it's the love that folks from that community is able to preach, to reach out and to show people that I don't care what you think, how you feel, how you live your life. I'm talking about let's work together and let's make this work. But you see, a lot of folks are not able to do that or will not do that because they're feeling like they're going to be losing something. But unless people actually start embracing the LGBT community the way they should, especially from people that look like me, we're going to have a problem. Because that's the only community that I feel like can save this whole entire world.
Okay. All right. Yeah. This is the thread that we continue to. I feel like, well, there's so many levels. You know, the Black church has its own cross to bear. Okay. It has, and so with that going on, it's a thing, because that, in my mind, part of everything, it's not a separation. It's not them. Actually, it's all integrated. Or not only your brother and your sister are married or Black and white, there is love and fellowship is what. And unless we do that as a black, the unity is what say, right? The unity that say this through this enacted. And so and let that be skill of then we're all lost. I don't care, you know what I mean? And so the love has to grow. And I'm telling you, many of our signals from television, whatever, how you get that information, if we don't us and that love, then we are lost. And so DEI goes as the Hispanic community by the year 2050, not even going to be listening to us because no, we don't. So now is the time for sorts for us to bring ourselves in what God has created us to be with last.
Yeah, I still say I believe the future can be bright, and I believe that there are many, many things that we can do to just bring this to where it needs to be. It's still it feels like now we've got hundreds and hundreds of years to go because of where we are in the 21st century for things that happened back in the 19th century that's being brought to the 21st century. Now, all of that's totally crazy, but it's true. But unless we have enough people to take it serious and to do the necessary things, then, I'm just afraid that, it could be an uphill battle that's really not necessary, but it's one that's already started. So hopefully it doesn't turn into a war because I just believe that, I love my culture and I love my people. And so I wouldn't want to be anything but a black man. Anything but a black man. Because I know my strength, I know my history, and I know that I'm an original king of this world. So as long as I know that, then I know anything else that folks try to preach, hey, it's nonsensical to me. But I do believe in preaching the history of my culture. And so I think we've got to preach that a whole lot more. We've got to preach that a whole lot more because it's got to be like brainwashing, because if it's not, then you're still going to have folks that's going by the wayside that some people just say, hey, I don't care about that. And that's a strange thing to say.
Strange world that we're living in. So platforms such as we're doing right now, as the work I believe I'm doing with obesity and healthy living of it, and so that's all we can do. All best foot forward as individuals. See people such as yourself out there spreading the word, and so as long as we believe there's hope.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I believe as long as we got all these great folks such as yourself that's out there that's making great strides and continuously breaking barriers, that's all we need. And so I want to tell you again, I appreciate you coming on the show. I hope that you'll come back. And it was really, really more than food for thought, but it's one that was informative as intended for our audience. And again, everybody, I want to thank Chef Kenneth Miner for being here and doing such a wonderful job and sharing his time with us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everybody.
And you have a wonderful evening.
You too.